In this video we're going to use the keyboard and the serial monitor of the Arduino Ide to input a series of numbers followed by an X to move the servo by a certain amount. This can be between 0 and 180 degrees. We are going to use the Cytron Pi RP2040 board in this one. You could use an ordinary Raspberry Pi Pico for this code as well, but I'm using the Cytron one because it makes it easy to connect the servo and other things. We will also be using Earlephilhower's board manager, which you saw in the previous version, which is here. This time I'm using the Cytron Pi RP20 definition. I'm also going to be using COM12 for this sketch. A quick reminder, in this sketch we're going to use Earl's servo.h version, not the standard Arduino servo.h. So if you remember rightly, we had to put these values which we found in the last sketch for the min and max duty cycle. I'm also going to set this variable here int pos equals 90, so the servo starts at the 90-degree mark when we first start. We are also going to use this string called read string. This variable is used to read what we type into the serial monitor, which you'll see later. The servo library requires us to make an object for one of the servos, and we're going to name it servo. So here we have servo. In the void setup, you'll see here we use servo.attach. In this case it's pin 12, and these are our min and max duty cycles. Again, I'll just say we then go servo.write position. Because we set the position at 90, at startup this will then set the servo to 90 degrees. We then do a serial.begin and set the baud rate to 9600. This is so we can use the serial monitor later on to add the values that we want to move the servo to. The next few lines of code here are used to explain what you will see, and you start off using the serial monitor. There is a delay of 10 seconds to give the Raspberry Pi Pico time to upload the sketch and then restart it. I will show these later when I actually start the sketch running. We then move into the void loop, and in the void loop you will see here we have while serial.available char c equals serial.read. Read string plus equals c, delay 2. The delay slows the loop to allow buffer to fill with the next characters. We then have an if statement, and the if statement is read string.length, and if the string is over 0, so in other words has at least one character, it can then look at the next 3 if statements to see which is true. The next 3 if statements are basically looking for the character after the numbers have been typed in. So if it's an X, is it a plus or is it a minus? If it's an X, then the position equals read the string to an int and set pos to that value. So if you type 100x, you want the servo to move to 100 degrees when you press enter. If you typed 10 plus into the serial monitor, what will happen? Pos will equal pos plus the string value. So whatever the previous position was, it will add 10 degrees to that position. And for the final if statement, whatever value and minus, it will remove the value that you've typed in from the original position that the servo is at. The next line of code is serial.println position. So this will type the position you want the servo to move to. We then have servo.write position, so whatever the position is you've set. We then have this final line of code which read string equals 2 semicolons. This empties the input box for the next entry to be added, and that is how the code works. We will now upload the code. This may take a couple of seconds to complete, because first it has to compile a sketch. Now you can see it has been uploaded to the Pico. Now you can see it's running through the instructions on what you need to do to be able to alter the positions of the servo. Once it gets to the final bit, which should be in a few seconds, you will be ready. We are now able to type into the box up here, and I'm going to set the servo to 180 degrees. As you can see, it's moved to 180 degrees. I will now set it to 0, and that is how we can set the servo to the position we need for whatever our turnout is going to be on the layout.